You're fast.
I was pulled over to ask you. So we're just on our way back we had lunch with Mark, and we actually went to Costco to pick up pies, and then I'm getting ready to drop her off as soon as I get back to
Okay.
to
Hi,
Exeter.
Kenya.
Hi.
Nobody else is on right now, and so Kimberly will be back in just a little bit. She's going to be on with me at the same time, and so you guys are perfect if you want to continue chatting or hang out here with me. That'll be just fine too.
So we could talk trash about Michael.
You can. I might go into a coughing fit.
Oh yeah. How is that going?
It's getting a little bit better. I feel like way better than I did like 2 and 3 days ago. And so I've got energy to be up. I'm not just sitting around in my sweats, so that's in a sense better. But man, this cough just will not go away. So it'll get to a point where I'll just get the tickle in in my throat, and then I'll just cough like crazy. So we'll see.
How is the sage syrup that Kimberly made? Is that helping you?
I don't know. I think she's given me all kinds of different remedies, and so I always tell her, she's like, it's working. Well, I guess so, but you've given me like 5 different things. I don't know what's working or what's the difference. If it were a true test, I'd be able to, tell, because there'd be a sense of control, but I'm sure they're all helping somehow.
Yeah.
I've got bone broth like crazy, this sage thing that tastes horrible, and all kinds of different things that she's given me.
It was like sage and honey and boiled down concentrated sage tea, and it has something else in it.
Cayenne pepper as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Should eat straight ginger.
It
That's
basically
really
just tastes like sage, and so there's no difference. I can't taste the cayenne pepper in it. So she just got in and she's giving me the sideways stare because she heard me talking about sage and cayenne pepper. But she's definitely swearing that it's making a big difference. And especially because she had been sick for a while and hadn't been doing those things. So her doctor.
That's what I was going to say, is you're getting better a lot faster than she is.
I'm not convinced that we have the same thing, but she's definitely certain that we've had the same thing.
His is much worse.
Of course, it goes immediately into the man cold stuff.
It's the man flu.
I can't even say anything about it.
I know, honey. Yours is way worse.
It's Amy, and then Senia's in the car with her. They're driving. They went to go pick up. How was Costco, by the way?
It wasn't bad. It was. I didn't have to fight or punch anybody, so everybody lived.
We went yesterday and ran some errands, and then we're gonna stop by Costco. I
had to take something back. And so I took it back, and I thought, well, I'll run in and grab a few things, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I left them in the take back line, and I went to the bathroom, and I'm telling you, the lines just for the food court alone went to the checkout stands. And then all the ones for the people checking out, they were like past the flowers.
When was this?
Yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, we planned on getting there as early as we could because I felt like being there earlier would be better. And it was normal. What was it, about 10:30? Yeah, so it wasn't that bad yet, but I'm sure it's going to get bad.
Oh, yeah. So I decided it's nothing I need now. I'll go after. And I know also, from this point on, stores are just going to be crazy because of Christmas too, but not as bad.
All the way through Christmas. I try to avoid Costco from the beginning of November to the end of the year, but I haven't been able to this year.
Yeah, well, and then you need toilet paper, right?
No, mine's delivered by Amazon.
Oh, I still haven't switched my toilet paper. Is it as good of a deal?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and Jeff needs special toilet paper, so we can't just buy Costco toilet paper.
Yeah.
Mark, how much is it? I'll show you. I'll look at
Mark does too?
Yes, he's a big old baby.
You guys are going to have to tell me about this special toilet paper. Not now.
Soft and durable. Charmin. Yes, I use the same one.
What is it called?
Charmin Ultra Soft, Heavy Duty, Durable. Okay, so Jeff has a thing with poop, and if he gets something on him, it's going to be a bad day for everybody. So it has to be.
That's really funny.
It has to be this certain toilet paper. Yeah.
That's like wiping your butt with a pillow, though.
What was that?
That's like wiping your butt with a pillow.
It is. Yep. Yeah. Mark has a sensitive butt. It's a process.
Oh, uh-oh. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy. I just sent a message to John and Tammy, so I don't know, because I know that today's a crazy day. We almost forgot. I had an alarm set to remind me to get things ready to go at 11:30, but I set it for 11:30 p.m. instead of a.m. I just barely remembered 10 minutes before the call, and then Kimberly had to shuffle the girls off to get. They're making kind of.
My mom every year she makes they're acorns, so look 2 little half cake acorns, and then the girls go over and they help put this yummy goodness maple like frosting stuff in there, and then there's some other, I don't know, they're pretty fancy. So my mom can't even eat them, so I told her that the girls would come and help out.
All right, well, let's jump in. I haven't heard back from John. I know that Cindy sent me a message saying that she's not going to be able to be on. Today is Darren's birthday. There was some moment that they were going to celebrate together. So he had some plans that he had sprung on her. So she said she's not going to be able to be here. I did assign the semicircle. I think it's all just a ploy to get out of teaching that, is what I think it is. So next time that you see her, let her know that we're all on to her ploy. She was just sitting at home in her pajamas, not wanting to teach it. So, and then I don't know if you guys have seen Suzette's Facebook page, but I believe that right now they're at the Ellen show, or they were there. And so she and the girls are there, and I know that she won't be on today. So I did expect John. I don't remember if he said something to the contrary, and I'm just forgetting about that. So here is our final time together. So here's where we're going to go. We're going to do a review of the semicircle. I'll do that on the whiteboard, and so that we can kind of discuss that. I know that for the most part, that seemed to be something you guys in particular were super comfortable with, but we got into the details, especially with Cindy's questions about what does this practically look like. I think that was a really helpful conversation. So I'm going to want to hear a little bit more out of that if you've had any more thoughts in that direction. Then we're going to look at Matthew chapter 12, the latter part of it. That's going to take us in the direction of how Jesus operated in family. So it's not quite the same conversation as the semicircle, but I think that there's definitely overlap in there. And then we'll deal with the questions from the email and then work around the circle that way. So Tammy, why don't you just give us a brief update? We've just been talking about toilet paper and Costco and all that kind of stuff before you got on. I know, kind of crazy. But like right before you got on, we were talking about like really expensive, I don't know if it's expensive, but soft
right
toilet paper.
Kind of toilet paper.
That is really fluffy. So give us just an update. You've got family coming into town. I don't know when everybody arrives, Tammy.
Yeah, Abby comes in, I don't know, sometimes it's a 10-hour drive. So she's left around 8. So who knows? 6, 7? Who knows is when they're coming in. That's so, and then boyfriend will follow shortly after, I'm sure.
Oh, goodness.
So.
How crazy, yeah. How exciting. And then, but you have everybody. Is Nathan coming home as well?
No, they're coming Christmas.
Okay, Christmas. I was thinking.
Yeah. They're all going to come Christmas. That'll be the big one.
Okay. Nice. Well, good. You'll have your girl and her young man.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me, I'm going to pull up the share screen and draw out the semicircle stuff. And so, Amy, I'm not sure if you're able to see this or if I don't know what you're able to see, but I'm going to.
Senia's holding the phone so she can watch the semicircle for the first time.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So here's the basic pitch. Okay. Jesus is the one that we want to model our lives after. And in John chapter 15, he talks about that there's a way to live in accordance with how God's designed our lives to operate. We know that since he's the creator, he breathed life into us, and he knows us intimately. He knows how our bodies work because he designed them. And you can see it in all of the creation around us. So there's a certain rhythm to the life that he has. Now, kind of being 21st century folks that are, very advanced technologically, I think a lot of times we think that we can live in a different way than the way God's created us to live. The way that that works is he talks about a relationship that we have to him and to the Father. So Jesus says that he is the vine, we are the branches, and the Father is the vine dresser. And that what he desires, the Father desires in our life, is fruit, and fruit that remains. He's created us to be fruitful. You can see this all the way back into the beginning of Genesis, where there, God creates humanity in his own image, and then he gives us dominion in that same way that we're called to have dominion and to rule. That's a similar way of talking about us having fruitful lives or of working. Jesus says the way that we do that well, and the way that we connect with him and bear fruit is that we abide or remain in him. And so he says that if we don't abide and remain in him, that we cannot bear any fruit. So these two are directly connected together, that our abiding and our fruitfulness are really like on kind of different sides of the same spectrum. And oftentimes with things that are seemingly opposite, because abiding, though it doesn't have to do with inactivity, it's a very different kind of activity than bearing fruit. And bearing fruit or working is a very different form of activity than abiding and remaining. It's like not like we can just hold these two in tension. So he describes it in a way that could be put on a pendulum. And so we see this in Jesus' life. He abided and remained with the Father on a daily basis and got away to lonely places to connect with God. But then he swings for the rest of the day out into bearing fruit. He returns kind of with his extended spiritual family. We're going to read about that later on, to abide and to remain with them, and then starts his day again the next day, connected with the Father. So he's got this rhythm swinging back and forth between this fruitful life and this abiding life that he has. He did it on a weekly basis too, because he took a day of rest, a Sabbath day of rest that's in the 10 Commandments. And he ceased from work and from productivity. And then out of that day, he went and for 6 days went to bear fruit. So it's a different kind of abiding and remaining. But again, it's a way that we're designed to live. You can even see that in the way that Genesis speaks about it, that God calls to give us dominion, like I mentioned before. But then the very first day on the job is, okay, now today is a Sabbath day, rest and remain with me. And then the next 6 days were to go and bear fruit. Jesus did this on a seasonal basis too. He took the disciples away and retreated with them, like Caesarea Philippi, or other times where he's trying to get away from the crowds to get time just with them. And then out of that, they go and they bear much fruit. And so we're called and created to live in this rhythm. And oftentimes the way that our Western world works is this is what our pattern of life looks like. We just keep going and going in that direction of bearing fruit, and then we get exhausted and burned out. So that's oftentimes the way that it works. This kind of just pictures that ongoing shape there. Sorry, it's not a very pretty semicircle. The other words that Jesus uses in here, one other word that he uses is pruning, that the Father will prune us. There is a form of pruning that it's like direct discipline. Like if our lives are not being fruitful, he says that he will cut off the branch. So there's a nice stern warning in there. But he also talks about that branches that do bear fruit, he prunes them so that they will be more fruitful. And so after bearing fruit, there's this pruning process in the return back to abiding and remaining that God's doing to actually strengthen us. That means he may be cutting away things that are good but not great in our lives, or things that could cause harm. There's also a spot where we voluntarily engage with pruning and maybe let go of something. It doesn't always have to be in a disciplinarian form. The other word that isn't mentioned in the text of John chapter 15, but it's just the assumed, of course that's taking place, is that out of abiding and staying connected to the Father and moving in the direction of fruit, that process is called growth. So that happens on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and a seasonal basis for us, and that's growth. Oftentimes that growth is characterized by kind of being unseen. It's underground. It's oftentimes root work. And then you guys know that I've been saying that it's just oftentimes not sexy. The things that sell in the world around us are things that, make things happen faster, are beautiful to the eyes and in the senses. But this kind of growth and work is the stuff that is difficult to be able to celebrate because you don't always see it. So last thing that I usually will put in here for the general depiction is that, again, just a reminder, this needs to happen on a daily, weekly, and seasonal basis. And I'll usually say, so which one of these is the area that you need to grow in the most? Is it a daily or a weekly one? So that's the semicircle as a whole. Love to do a couple of things. Talk about, any insight that you've got over the last couple of weeks of having read it and discussing it, any new things that you're seeing or questions that you've got. And then I don't think we identified this, which one of these is the one that you need to grow in, daily or weekly? So I'll open it up to Tammy first. Tammy, any thoughts, questions, anything that we can address about it?
Wait.
She went off camera. You're back on an audio, but we don't have a video feed for you.
I'm trying to figure out to pull it up. Sorry, give me a second. It's not. Well, I can't.
So right now your microphone is off, and so I think when you're kind of pushing the buttons, whichever you're pushing, it'll go on and off, so we can hear you, but it sounds like you just can't see the screen itself.
All right, I don't know why the video went off. Anyways, I was trying to pull up the little bar so that you play with it, but it's not letting me do that. Anyways, repeat your question, sorry.
No, that's just fine. Any thoughts, kind of just reactions or questions about the semicircle now that we've been looking at it for the last couple of weeks?
I like the, I definitely like the pendulum definition, and I almost see it too where instead of the circling around when you burn out, it's like if you stay too much, it's almost like the abide is the gravity instead of the middle part, and that everything in that pendulum should actually be gravitating back to the abide. And if we don't gravitate back to the abide, that abide, and that's the one that pushes, once we abide, that's what actually pushes us out to the fruit. That's always how I kind of see it.
Yep. One of the critiques that's come to this shape, and sometimes the way that it can get presented, is it makes it sound like we're connecting to God and then we disconnect from him to go bear fruit. So I think you're right on target. So if somebody were to push back on that, what I'm doing, I don't think you can see it right now, is I'm drawing another edge of the triangle. You know how I'll usually have the semicircle or the thing? There you go.
They are fast to figure it out.
The triangle in there. And so when you think about this, here's up, and up is our connection to God. We don't disconnect from him. And then here is, and I think that you would probably put out in this direction on the fruit bearing side.
Oh, I see.
In this direction, even though oftentimes we do that alone, there is a spot where, especially as families, we abide and remain together. Now this is nuanced. It's not 100%, dialed there, but I think the upward part being the connection point of where the pendulum swings from, I think you're right on target. Mm-hmm. We don't disconnect from him at all.
Yeah.
But there is this, and I think that's where the words rest fit better over here as a whole, and work.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so when you look at those two activities of rest and work, abiding and remaining is like rest, and fruit is like working. But I think those two things from Genesis fit even better inside of there. Mm-hmm. Great insight. How about Amy or even Senia seeing it? I'm sure you've seen this before, but just seeing it again like this. Any insight from you two ladies?
Are we unmuted? Am I unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Senia is gone. I dropped her off, and we can't see the screen. My phone is frozen, but I'm almost home, so I'll get my computer on. I'm not sure that I have anything new about the semicircle, but it's been all around me this week. Like, I keep getting references to it in different things I'm listening to, and I was listening to Chris Valentin's new book this week, and he has just a great explanation of why a grapevine is perfect for this abiding and pruning, explaining that if left to its own, a grapevine will shoot out its vine 12 feet. And only the first 3 feet can sustain fruit because it can't push out its energy that far. and then the next 3 feet will have leaves, and then the rest of the vine has nothing. It's just a vine searching. And so just that, and then the image of the semicircle about just swinging back and forth, and then I see it like if you just go in one direction, you're just spinning out of control.
So good. Yep. And I do, that's where the pruning is so critically important that the Father does. I think, when we talk about, when I use that, it's not sexy, the growth side of it. I think that a lot of times in our world, using that image of the vine, I think we're highly content with a vine that's got a lot of leaves on it because it looks really good and healthy. And I think that's kind of like the way the world works, but the Father wants fruit. And I think that's beautiful to say, we can have 12-foot long, branches, but that's not what the Father's after. He's not looking for something just on the exterior. He actually wants something on the interior that actually produces fruit. All right, I'm going to let Kimberly speak in right now. What about you, Kimberly? Any insight from seeing it, or anything from kind of having it be in front of us for the last 2 weeks?
Well, I was thinking about like the area daily, weekly, or seasonal that I see that I need to work on. And I think the seasonal is where we're lacking in the whole rest thing. Because I think we're good on the weekly because we set that aside. That's something we've been doing for a while. And then the daily, I think that's iffy. I'm reading my Bible every day and I'm spending time in prayer when I'm doing that. But as I'd say that the seasonal, like quarterly or whatever time to really have a big rest time, that's not something that we've really implemented. Well, that I have implemented. Sorry, I can't speak for you. You could be doing that.
I feel the same way. That I think that's the growing edge for us. Like I'm listening and watching other people who are doing seasonal rest well, but I don't, I think we've done some things, but it feels like the early stages of when we were doing daily and weekly. And so it definitely has a lot of room to grow there.
Yeah. So, and I know that once we started living more with this semicircle, it made a huge difference in our lives because we were thinking about it. We were, making plans and being intentional.
Yep. All right. How about any other insight at all before we turn this off and then get into the scriptures? All right. Amy, I did put you on mute right now, and so I'm not sure where you are. Sounded like you were close to home and getting inside of the house. So I'm going to pull it down, and then we're going to move into the scriptures right now. I'm assuming that you can still hear us. All right, so let's turn to Matthew chapter 12, and we're going to look at, I think I only put 48 to 50 in the email, but I'm going to do 46, add in the extra couple of verses, providing some extra context. I'll tell a little bit more story about it, kind of frame it even between all of the Gospels. And then ultimately, we're looking at how Jesus defined family. And that definitely does fit into this work and rest thing, but it's just not a complete overlap and dovetail that way.
We have
two Amy's on call. There we go. Will the real Amy please stand up? Okay. So this passage of scripture, Matthew chapter 12, Jesus is in Capernaum doing ministry because he's made Simon and Andrew's home his ministry base. That's his oikos. He has literally kind of made his kind of roots established there, and it was a mission base. And so they would go and return to this. So if you think about the semicircle, they would go and bear fruit from here, sometimes for extended periods of time, and then they would return here for rest. But it's also a place where they're doing the work of ministry from. The reason that he went to Capernaum is because we don't see this in Matthew. In Matthew's account, it's interesting. I was going back to look at this yesterday, that Matthew goes from Jesus being baptized into the desert comes out of the desert full of Holy Spirit and power. And then it just briefly mentions that he goes into Nazareth, and it talks about him not being received there. And then he goes from there to Capernaum. And there's not much of a battle. But if you go to Luke's account shows him going back into Nazareth, and then it actually gives the text that's the Isaiah passage. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news, to preach release to the captives, and all of that amazing, beautiful passage of Isaiah. And then as he says, today in your hearing, this has been fulfilled, people begin to ask questions. And then it sounds really quickly kind of mob mentality, like this, very devout Jewish community that Jesus grew up in quickly seizes him, pushes him out towards a cliff where they would have performed public executions. And they get him right to the edge of the cliff. They would push him over. This is what they would normally do with somebody who was heretical. They would want him to land head first down however far the drop is. And then from that top position, they would take rocks and they would throw them down on him until he died. That's what stoning would have been like. So Jesus, in his own hometown, preaches this message, proclaiming his public ministry, and is rejected. He's rejected not only by his neighbors and the people that he grew up with, but he's rejected seemingly by his parents, or by his mom at least, and by his brothers and sisters that are there. And so there's no accounting of Mary stepping in or the brothers. I mean, these would have been burly guys too, but they don't do anything. And so he leaves from Nazareth, gets out of that situation, as he oftentimes does. In the Gospel of John that we're reading through right now in the reading plan, I'm noticing how often he gets away from the religious leaders. They regularly want to seize him and execute the judgment, even though Rome has inhibited them from being able to pass that judgment on people. They're regularly seizing him, and then he gets away. It's like he slips away magically from the crowd. And so he goes into Capernaum, and that's where he then, he's already known Simon and Andrew, but he tests them as people of peace. He, in going back to Matthew chapter 5, he's now there and he's like, hey, can I use your boat? And then he preaches the message from there. And then he goes and says, hey, cast your nets on the right side, and I'm going to make you fishers of men, not fishers of fish. So he takes that oikos and he turns it inside out and uses it for mission. So he's been doing that for a season of time now at Matthew chapter 12. And his mother and his brothers are coming to Capernaum from Nazareth to look for him. That's all of the setup just to get to this text. So verse 46, as Jesus was speaking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside asking to speak to him. Someone told Jesus, your mother and your brothers are standing outside and they want to speak to you. Jesus asked, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? Then he pointed to his disciples and said, look, these are my mother and brothers. Anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. So he really does some pretty harsh communication here. I don't think that he's outright like flipping the bird to his family. I don't think it's rude in that way, but he is definitely drawing lines, and he's defining family not by blood relationship, but by the business and the mission of the family. He's opening up the doors for many people to be in his family. He's probably looking back and pointing out the 12 disciples and probably many others that would have been regularly gathering with him in that house, because it sounds like he's still inside of that open quad area, and his mom and his brothers are outside of that area, and word is traveling back inside to him. But he's defining family by anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven is in the family. You can be in the family business. We're a family fishing for people, and you can be in that way. And so he defines it in a very different way. And what's interesting is you can see that he's not excluding his family, because later on at the crucifixion, there's Mary. Something's taking place where she's going from this position, because other texts, I think it's Luke's account, I don't remember for certain, but I feel pretty confident that it's in Luke's account. Mom and brothers are actually there because they think he's gone crazy. And they're there to kind of call him to account on all of that. And so something changes from, we think you're crazy, because remember, she stored all those things in her heart, and that early, stories in Bethlehem and at the birth of Jesus. But then she then goes back where she's there at the crucifixion. She even, or Jesus says, Mother, this is your son, appointing her to John, and John, son, this is your mother. He even takes care of her in that way. And then we know that James plays a critical part in the early church. And so he's not rejecting his family, but he's letting the family business of the Father's business be the central thing they gather around. And when they gather around that, they're in. When they're not about the Father's business, he doesn't try to gather them. He doesn't chase after them. He lets them choose the distance that they're going to choose. So let's just open it up. I want to hear some thoughts from that passage of Scripture and kind of framing it in that larger narrative arc.
I've been having a lot of messages about, and it's been in our reading lately about the people who the Father has revealed Jesus to, compared to those that he hasn't been revealed to them yet. And so, because I've been meditating on that a lot, I'm wondering if that plays into this also, that, these are my people. The Father has gifted them to me.
Yep.
And, just the wider expansive family. And then does it fit into that family business? Like we're about the business of the Father.
I think so. And then go into the person of peace. I know that we've not focused on person of peace as a strategy and a specific tool, but if the Father is doing things in advance and drawing these people to Jesus or to us, because we're still walking in the ministry that he's called us to walk in and imitate him in, then there is a part where he's drawing people to Jesus or to us, and there's a stewardship that takes place in that. So yeah, I think that all does fit together, and it almost feels like though person of peace can last the duration of the relationship and the time frame, a lot of times we're looking at as the initial parts. We're looking for the signs of, is this a person of peace? But as somebody moves like Peter did from, I like Jesus, I'm a disciple of his, to I become an apostle of his, to I take on leadership in his organization, that's all still person of peace stuff. He's just growing in greater kingdom responsibility, which is all about the family business. Yep, I think that's all dovetails together well.
And to add to that, there's also, I have a few thoughts starting about, you mentioned Mary holding these things in her heart. She knew who he was. She was the one who pressed him to reveal himself before it was his time. But if you look at the situation where she and his brothers came to take charge of him because they felt like he was insane, there's a huge expanse in between those two approaches to Jesus and his ministry. And so, this little girl who stepped out in faith and believed what the angel told her, compared to the woman who said, it's your time now because I say so, and these people are going to do whatever you say, to the woman who is here to take charge of you because you've lost your mind.
Yeah.
Those are completely different people at completely different stages. And I just wonder how that happened. Like in between, it's time for you to step out now, to, maybe I was wrong.
Yep.
Like that's what I've been focused on in this time. It's just like, what is the difference here?
These are guesses. I agree. I wonder too. Why did she respond this way?
Mm-hmm.
Such powerful words in the beginning of her story and Jesus' story. She has such radical faith.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me just think, gosh, she's human. She's not the Mary of the Catholic Church that is to be venerated and worshiped and prayed to in that way. She does play a really key role, but she is just like us. And I know that there are words I've received and then hold onto very poorly at times.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if that's not a part of that whole journey in there, that she just wavers, just like any of us. And then the other part, I think, this is just Michael's thoughts in here, but I wonder if sometimes family and blood relationship makes it more difficult. You know, like I have expectations for Zach because I've grown up with him, you know, and sometimes I wonder if I can get in the way. My expectations. Could I push him like Mary faster than what he needs to? And it's couched in love and desire, you know, but I wonder if sometimes I can't get ahead or even behind of the Father's will. Because it was when Zach was called to go to Africa, that was tough. This is Sudan, Africa. This is not safe Africa safari where he's on a guided tour. And then we're hearing the stories of him crossing lines and going into northern Sudan where it's incredibly dangerous and he could be killed for proclaiming his faith. Those were really difficult times for us. And so sometimes I wonder if our blood relationships almost don't hinder things. So that's me just trying to take my story and have compassion upon Mary at that point and go, maybe I do understand that a little bit more. And maybe I have been very, I don't mean to minimize the true, you know, issue that sometimes people have at a mental health level, but man, maybe that's why sometimes I'm like, you know, bipolar about the way that I'll respond in a family situation. So, Tammy, why don't you jump into the conversation? Any thoughts from the text, and then kind of even maybe you want to jump into the direction we're going, or take us another direction if you want.
I always kind of saw that similar to when Peter denied Jesus, that he feared for his life. And I wonder if there was a part of just by association that his brothers and mother could have been just as easily pushed off that cliff. I've always wondered if there was an aspect, and like you said, kind of that, well, maybe there, yeah, because maybe they are saying he's crazy as just a means to you know, because if he really means what he says, then the consequences would have been death, definitely. So I don't know. That's how I always kind of wondered if there is those elements going on. Just when you're in that mob mentality, which you hear happens, that probably no strength of what his brothers could have done could have stopped it from what you hear. That's how I always kind of pictured it.
Yeah.
That mob dynamic would have overpowered them, and they kind of knew that. That's how I kind of saw it. I don't know.
Well, and then I think with what you're sharing, it's making me think too that there were consequences of Jesus' ministry for them. That means that they were ridiculed and heckled. I'm sure there would have been some form of consequence that, you know, did affect them in those ways. I hadn't really put that together yet. That's really helpful. What about you, Kimberly?
Well, I was thinking about when it says, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And I was just thinking about like what our family looks like. And, you know, Michael has the majority of his family is here, but we don't spend nearly as much time with biological family as we do with other people.
Yeah.
You know, we spend time with people that are doing things really like what we're doing, you know, and who are in our regular rhythms of life. And, but sometimes, you know, I feel bad about that. And, so I was just thinking about that, like we're doing stuff with a large majority of people that aren't, you know, that are really have become our family because we're doing stuff together and we're moving in the same direction. Yeah,
and even had faced people, you know, not that it's all defined by the church itself, but leave the church and not continue forward with us. Yeah. Anything else?
I think too, some thoughts I've had are about saying things in such a way that doesn't bring division. And so how he said that, who's my mother, who are my brothers? It's this. And it didn't exclude anybody. It would have invited his blood mother and brothers to come along and do the work of the kingdom.
Mm.
And that's been highlighted also lately because of our work in the underground, Jeff, and my volunteering there is just like, whatever we say or do should not bring division in this moment. And so we don't buy into the cliques, and we don't say, yeah, you're right, this person is not fun to be around because of blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, it's similar right now. That just came to me. It's like it was a non-dividing statement that he gave, but it also was the invitation and the challenge,
Yeah.
and boundary setting. So all of that rolled into one with just so few words.
Yeah, and beautiful words at that too. That's helping me to see that. So maybe they're not poetic in the sense, but like beautiful that he has such a strong line that he draws, but it's completely invitational. I think that's really good insight. He's not dividing, because he could have said, you're either in or you're out.
Yes.
Oh, but he doesn't do it that way.
And he kind of did, but didn't bring division. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I think, man, he's always so amazing with his words that way.
Well, and like, it makes me think of, remember when Rhonda showed up at church, Aunt Rhonda, and I see Amy over there praying with her, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. And then I go over there, and and then we invite her to our home group, and like, that's an open invitation for her. She's welcome to come anytime. And we see her and we remind her of that. Like, she knows where we live, she knows we have this home group, and I mean, she's welcome other times too, but yeah. So it's like, we want all of our family here, and Tim and Crystal go to a different church, and they're still doing the work of the kingdom, and we're still like encouraging them and excited and praying for them and all of that. They don't have to be doing the work of the Father right here. They're doing it somewhere else. We'd prefer them here, but it works better for them there, So I don't know, just another,
But I think it's just a place too where all of us, I mean, we all face different things where our families biologically are running in the kingdom or they're not, and so, yeah, I think it's just rubber meets the road. This is stuff that we all face, and it's interesting to see that Jesus faced similar things in his great responses. Let's turn to these questions, and we've got about just over 15 minutes left for the call. So I want to make sure that we get some time around this. Question number 1, do I define Jesus, or do I define family like Jesus defined family? 2, do I have walls around my family to protect them from mission? That can sometimes be something that we do. 3, do I have healthy rhythms of up, in, and out that empower my family to be on mission? 4, is my family living for a mission greater than itself? 5, do I have an extended family on mission growing around me? And 6, do I have predictable patterns for family on mission that others can gather around? Let's take 60 seconds, still our hearts before the Holy Spirit, and then just kind of take all of our conversations, where we're going. We've read the book, we've talked about it for 2 weeks now, looked at multiple passages of Scripture, and now, here we are facing these questions. And let's just see which one of these the Holy Spirit's identifying. We'll share that and then see where we can work in the circle to get at what God's saying to us and what we might do about it. So come, Lord, come. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for your ministry in our lives, that you love to lead us to the things of Jesus. Use these questions now in our conversations, in our study, in our life, to be able to continue to bring breakthrough. Last 60 seconds. All right, I'll go first. I just led this huddle yesterday too with the Sequoia huddle. And so it's a similar thing that I feel like the Holy Spirit's pointing out. It's number 6. Do I have predictable patterns for family on mission that others can gather around? But the secret, and it's a yes, but the secret sauce behind that is number 3. Do I have healthy rhythms of up, in, and out that empower my family to be on mission? So you've got almost like individual family and then space for others to be able to orbit around, and that one informs the other. And I'm noticing that if I didn't have predictable patterns, or I couldn't have predictable patterns for family on mission that others could gather around if we didn't have the up, in, and out at an individualized nuclear family level. So I'm noticing the way that those interplay. Kimberly, what about you?
Well, I don't know. I don't really think that any one in particular stood out to me, but I was thinking of the 6. Do I have predictable patterns for family on mission that others can gather around? And I was thinking we have our home group, but like, should there be other predictable patterns in our weekly? And then how do you make time for those? Because, sometimes I feel like I'd like to be able to have more time with our home group. And not that it has to be everybody all at one time, but there's so many people that we need to connect with on a weekly basis, or not a weekly basis, but not, and that sounds so bad.
I know, and I'm not trying to be divisive, but it does.
Because I love getting together with as many people we do. I mean, the majority of our meals are with other people, but like, I wish there were more open spaces for that with the family on mission. So that's good. What I was thinking.
How about Amy? What about you?
I just see all of these things growing for my family. I've kind of been in the teachings and meditating on myself for a while, which fit for me because I'm pretty much an introvert and love my time alone. But I also see in the last few weeks, like, I've invited people to go with me just to be able to spend time with them. And that's like, taking Stinio with me to Costco. I can't find any other extra time in my day to incorporate people that I want to be with. Then, hey, I'm going to go take this stuff over to baby Noah. Do you want to ride with me? Or, hey, and then we had lunch with Mark while we were in Visalia also. And that's not my normal, and it's not comfortable because, I had to have 2 work meetings while she was with me. And then I started this call because my work meetings were on Zoom. And I'm on vacation today, by the way. But so, everything is crashing in together. And I joke still that I just keep putting my shoes on every day and doing all the things, but I have been pushed out of my comfort in all of these things. And I just, whether I chose intentionally to be creating predictable patterns or whether they just happened, I don't know that yet, but I see them coming. I see it forming, like, hey, I'm going to be in this place at this time. Do you want to be with me here? And inviting more and more people to be with me in those places.
Yep. I think you're hitting on something that is really good in there, and it is uncomfortable too, for a couple of reasons. I think I hear some specifically for you, but when you take the regular spaces I've got to run this errand, and I invite you to come along, man, that's just opening up the door. And, even though it was hectic, she saw these 2 business meetings, she's jumping on to the huddle call. It's that right there alone, what she saw was really good without even any words of you explaining anything. I can't say how, and it's hard. I'd like to be in control, and then I'd like to give the explanation to everything. I can't do that all the time. But if I can let people see those regular parts of life that are formed around the mission of God, there's something brilliant that happens there. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes the best discipleship takes place in those spaces.
Yeah. And I couldn't have planned it any better. Like our screen was frozen on the phone, so we didn't get to, and maybe we can't see when you put the whiteboard on the phone, but she was like, trying to figure out the phone so she could see. And I'm just like, there is no way I could have orchestrated this by myself. No way,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Tammy, what about you?
I guess since we're empty nesters, our definition has changed a lot. And even so, I'm kind of at shouldn't say a loss, but I mean, I look back at what we did with family, and there's things definitely I wish we would have done differently as far as the mission. But, now they're grown and they're gone and they're doing their own life. And so I see now as more and encouraging them and to keep them to, encouraging them to keep on with the faith and keep on with what Jesus is doing, encourage those things. So I don't know, that it's kind of a different spot that we're at right now. So.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And speak to this too, because this is where I was thinking you were going to go. So I'm hearing you say we're empty nesters now, and my influence to my biological kids, this is what it looks like, and that's a different form. But I was thinking you were going to go into what does that mean for who is my family now in the day-to-day. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I guess now, I mean, definitely has opened up a lot of different doors of being able to get together with people and conversations, and just so much more flexibility, definitely, of doing, if God says, hey, why don't you ask so-and-so for lunch? We can do that. And there's definitely those blessings in that part.
Yeah.
Just so many different, options on that. So, yeah, I kind of feel I have these different families in very different circles too that we get to, that I consider my family too. That's very, very different, groups too. So
Tell us a little bit about, like, what circles do you have like that kind of family in?
Well, just, some of the family would definitely be like some of my horse friends. I just had spent dinner with her and her kids, and we go riding, and she goes to church sometimes, but sometimes not. So it's very beneficial just to speak God's encouragement to her heart too, because single mom and stuff like that. So her and there's a bunch of those my horse group friends that varying levels of walking with Christ, I would say. And then I have people that aren't even Christians, the Pokemon Go whole group, which is very different.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't really consider them my family. I see them more as I'm inviting them in to join us. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Where that on, we opened our house for Thanksgiving, but that's more of a come and see kind of a thing.
Yeah. Are you actually inviting Pokemon Go people into Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I have. So,
well, oh my goodness.
Well, we'll see. So far, I mean, I have one that have a question mark, so I don't know. But the response was amazed. They were just like, "Wow, that's so nice." So, it's just opening doors. So
love it.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
So I have that, and then I have like the people that with art stuff. So yeah, I have very different kind of groups of people.
That's so great, Tammy. But again, just to one, you have skill sets in this too, just from what your guys' past training and life experiences are. But that's just beautiful to think that here's all of these different types of people revolving around you. But it does sound like largely they're segmented. And so, like, I spend time with these people and these people, and I'm wondering, because we went through this where we thought, let's just try and invite all of our people from different spheres together and see what happens. Will spark fly? And it didn't all work out well, but it was fun, and it felt like, whoa, all of our life and all of our people are together. That was fun for us. to be able to see. And that was a big hurdle to overcome for us, because it felt very weird to think about having these people together. So
Mm-hmm.
that sounds awesome, Tammy. I'd love to hear that. I love to hear the way that you're using your space to invite those people into. But yeah, I'm wondering, man, is there something because of your house church experience, just inviting these people slowly? You're right, come and see, versus come and be with me and come and do mission with me. But I think that there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
I wonder then, why don't you just think about, like, I'm sure you've thought about that stuff already before. And I can see you taking proactive steps, especially as I hear things about Pokemon Go. What do you feel like the Father might be saying to you and then what do you think you might do about it? I don't know if you've got an answer for that right now, or you want to sit on that a little bit more, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that before we get off the call. So let me know. Do you want to speak to that now, or do you want some time to think about it a little bit more?
Let me think about it, and then let me think about it a few minutes more. So
okay. So Amy, let me turn to you then. So yep, I hear you. I see these predictable patterns. They're forming. All of these questions really hit on it. Uncomfortable. I'm coming out of my own comfort zone, using regular spaces to be able to gather people in. What do you think is kind of maybe the cutting edge that the Lord's speaking to you about for growth here?
So inside my head, and then I try to say, no, it can't be that easy, but yeah, it is that easy. It's just what I have been speaking into every situation at work and at church and at home is just, it's as simple as I just literally put my shoes on and keep doing all the things every day, without second guessing, without questioning, and just moving forward into all the spaces. I've spent a lot of time saying, am I doing this right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Do I know what I'm doing? And it's not that complicated. It's just, it really hit for me listening to Andrew tell the story about, don't ever ask me to be on mission playing tennis because I hate tennis. Do the things that you love to do, or the normal things that you're doing in your normal spaces, and you're on mission everywhere you are. So literally, while I'm at work, while I'm taking a friend with me to buy pies for tomorrow, while having several work meetings and also having a church huddle, everything is crashing in at the same time. But I also know I have been given all the resources of heaven that I need to do everything as I approach every single situation. I don't know if it's a gift of confidence. I don't know if it's faith. I don't know that I have to figure it out right now. It's just doing the things.
Yeah. Well, and I think, just so that we can give input from the outside, like, you're growing tremendously. And it probably, it's just like the growth, that happens from abiding into bearing fruit. It's not always visible to us, but from the outside, the ways that you're going about things, you're intuitively navigating. I'm watching you move toward people. You're an agent of reconciliation. Like, there's just so many things that I'm watching you, the way that you're gathering people for mission. I mean, there's so many things that you're doing that are just so highly commendable. And yeah, you're right. I don't think you have to have it all figured out right now. And I think the mistakes that you're going to make along the way are probably really important so that you grow the right way. There won't be a proper execution first, and then you'll get it done,
Yeah.
That will mean that 5 years from now, you'll probably be in the same spot. But because you're moving forward and you're open to it, it's like I just see the Lord moving. And I wonder if it's not that verse, my grace is sufficient, my power is made perfect in weakness. Yeah. And as you're embracing that, there is a confidence that comes from, like, oh, this is where I play, and he really is growing me. So I know that the both of us see that tremendously in you and on you right now.
And I think also, if I'm expanding on what I said earlier, but I get bogged down in the whole planning stage before the rocket, in the countdown before the rocket launches, and just maybe there isn't any fanfare. Maybe you don't ever have that build up to anything. It's just as simple as doing the normal things, and in everything you bring to the table. And it sounds really oversimplified, but you know, we spend a lot of time focusing on what we're going to be when we grow up. And maybe, I don't think I'm ever going to grow up. I think this is as good as it gets. And so why not be as good as I can right now?
Yeah. No, I think you've hit on gold. And there's something going on. I think as you continue to unpack this, that you're hitting on gold. And I just wish that could be multiplied 100 and 1,000 times over in the church.
But that's the factor where we say the people that grasp that are the people that God has called to it, as if they were magnetized, those two pieces. And so, yeah, I've heard you say that several times, like, what is the secret sauce? How do you do this? What are you doing? And I'm like, it's going to be different for everybody. Yeah. But if I can be a light and an example, and I don't know what your way is, but this is the way I did it, and then I'm going to do it as best I can.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let me circle back to Tammy. Tammy, any thoughts as you were resting on that? What's the Lord saying and what you might do about it?
I still, I see them saying some specific things to each of those different groups, and I still don't see, for now, I still don't see them coming together.
Yeah.
Other than like a celebration kind of times where we have, family barbecue, or, and then inviting them, in which I try to do, which I'm feeling more inclined to do that more and more, stuff like that. So as far as those kind of segments, I don't see as much. I'm also feeling just with the church and just recently, even just with the whole prophecy group or the prayer group, of feeling it would be beneficial just to kind of, we've been off of the whole prophetic huddle thing for a while now, and just kind of realizing it would probably be good just to have some connection. And then I see people who want to do the prayer stuff, and just even bringing them in, and just, kind of, so I'm kind of, again, I'm seeing myself in different pieces in different places. I don't know how they're all coming together.
And I think it's probably long-term versus short-term. So I wholeheartedly agree that the next step isn't necessarily a place where they're together on a weekly basis. But I think you're right, using celebration and using you and Sam as the central pieces to say, hey, come celebrate our life with us, and pulling those people in together. That could be the seed bed to see the connections happen, and just watch what takes place. And then who knows, maybe that's a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, who knows what the Lord might do there. But you're right. I think celebration is the space to gather it.
Yeah.
So that sounds right on. Right on. All right. Well, let's wrap up then at that. I know that Amy, I didn't get to really circle back and then drill down, like, so what's the next step? It really does feel like just affirmation and I think your word of put my shoes on and do the things is really the right kind of a word. And then just keep moving forward in that. I know Amy sent a message, but Tammy, I've canceled Accessible Prophecy. We didn't have the numbers where they needed to be. I'm super bummed about it. I had been in contact with Brandon before this last Sunday. I'd been pushing again for registration, and by the time we were at Monday, we had 9 people registered, and we needed to be 25 to 30 to be able to make it feasible. And so and then I thought, well, maybe there's enough time. Maybe we'll just do another, round of push, because I had been hearing people who were interested to come on board, but I wasn't getting the actual conversion where they went and registered. And when I went back and looked, thinking this is Thanksgiving week, and then I've got to mobilize a lot of teams to make that event happen, it just didn't seem feasible. So I'm bummed, but pulled the plug on it. No Brandon coming. I even thought, maybe there's a way I could just get Brandon to come and hang out with our prayer and prophecy team. But we don't have the funds at this point. I didn't feel good about moving forward with that to be able to make that take place. So Told him sorry. He said, that's all right. I was hoping to spend some Christmas time in, December in California, but maybe another time in the future. So that's where that one leaves off. So Tammy, I don't know if you did register for that one already. There will be a refund. I haven't gotten any communication back from Brandon about that. He was going to get me a list of who did register so I could individually follow up with them. And then there will be a refund if anybody did pay that way. So, alrighty. And then Tammy, I didn't respond to your message yesterday, but I don't know, is there any availability today at all to be able to get together? What's your schedule like?
Probably not. I go pick up my brother from Reedley, and then Abby comes in tonight, so probably not. But that maybe after the holidays.
Yep, sounds
And
good.
then it would be good if we had a time that Sam can come too. So
Okay, I love that. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll touch back then.
All right. Any other thoughts? Okay. So.
Food, bring leftovers.
Oh yeah, that's right. So this is the end. I wasn't thinking that. Sorry. This is the last call for this Explorer Huddle. In the email, I'm going to put in there, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. This is, in a sense, a decent experimental huddle, the way that it's run. There's been a lot of iterations before this one, but I'd love feedback for myself, but also to funnel back to Bob. I was telling him about how I had modified things, and so I'd love to continue in that feedback loop toward him. And then our last gathering for the home group immersion is this upcoming Sunday, and so bring leftovers from Thanksgiving. If you don't have any leftovers, you can, of course, make something new if you would like to, but we're just trying to be lightweight and low maintenance in terms of like making it as simple as possible, knowing that we all are coming out of a holiday weekend. So that's it. All right, we'll see you guys Sunday, if not before. All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.